Welcome back to our next video. This is part 2 of 3 about how to write up your Year 9 Science student experiment. We've modelled this on the expectations for years 11 and 12 to give you an idea of what's coming and so you can better develop your report writing. So today we're specifically looking at writing up our practical assignment, our report, looking at the analysis of evidence section. This is like your results and what your results actually mean. Okay? So by the end of this, we should understand what we've got to write on this middle part of our assignment. As I said before, you've got 3 unknown samples given from a range of other samples that we've told you it comes from. You've got to identify them. Here's our modified ISMG or Instrument Specific Marking Guide, like your marking rubric. And today we're specifically looking at analysis of evidence. So it's about, have you collected your raw data? All right. So for example, do you have sufficient and relevant data? All right. If you can identify your acid through a pH test, I mean, that's good. If you can identify that it's also an acid and prove it again through the hydrogen pop test or the carbon dioxide test, that's even better. Can you see the progression there from down this end of the scale to this end of the scale? The more data you have, the better. Processing of data, that's more of a senior sort of term when I sort of say that. All right, but basically it's how you then take that data and then start to identify your trends and tell us why you've identified your samples as a particular way. I use this test, I use this test, I use this test. It can't be that one because of these reasons, etc., etc. And also, uncertainties and limitations always comes into this. If there were any issues with your assignment, you want to mention those. All right, let's dig down into a bit more. Don't forget our paragraph styles. We're looking specifically at these two here. All right, the results is pretty straightforward. It's going to be a data table, and the analysis is going to be a few paragraphs there of these guys, scientist and or compare to contrast. So results. This is literally just the outcome of your experiment. Often we do this as just as a table, but sometimes you'll do it as just written text like paragraphs and so on, if that fits your situation better. You do have a template in your workbook. You can literally just copy that in if you'd like. It's entirely up to you. Again, if you're not sure, run it by your teacher what you're going to do to make sure you're on the right track before you put too much effort into it. But this is literally just telling us we did a pH test, the pH was neutral, or the pH was 9, or whatever. That sort of stuff. Then there's the analysis section. So again, new heading, analysis. Here's where you tell us what the results are telling us. So the results were literally just what you found in your experiment. Now you're telling us what it means. Notice this point here, make a judgment based on evidence of what chemicals you have. Sample A is hydrochloric acid because it tested a pH of this. It did not smell like vinegar. It formed a precipitate with, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Writing a justification, all right, and that's kind of what I said. The judgment and the based on evidence bit and the justification bit all kind of tie into each other a bit. What is the chemical and why have you said it is that chemical? Why have you said it's not other chemicals? We have our write that essay paragraph styles. I showed you last video how to find those paragraph styles, but you want either the scientist paragraph or a compare contrast paragraph style. If you have equations for that have occurred, if you know that a precipitate's occurred in a particular example, find what that equation is. There's another reference you can include because you've got to find it online somewhere. If you don't know what it is, include that one. If no reaction occurred, you should state that. All right. Something like distilled water is going to be hard to identify because it doesn't have any reactions to these tests. So you want to think a bit more broadly than that if you're planning on getting closer to an A. What's a way that you can identify distilled water that none of the rest of them will do? And was there any sort of error or uncertainty in your reactions? Was there any sort of thing that went wrong on a particular reaction? We're going to come back to this error and uncertainty in the next section, in the next video. But this is more about, was there any particular experiment that you thought wasn't quite accurate in any way or had some sort of doubt in your mind? All right. A little bit of a bigger section, 300 to 400 words, 3 to 4 paragraphs, give or take-ish. All right. But it's all about the results told me this. From that, I think my chemicals are this, this, and this for these reasons. Here's my equations. Here's what I think were my errors were or my uncertainties were. All right, that's the bulk of this section. There's a lot of writing in this, but there's only two main bits that you've got to do. All right, so you should know what to do for this middle part of your assignment now. Okay, thanks a lot.